September 27th, 2008. My name is Daryl Mintz. I am head of the Ravenwood Police Department. I have always loved my job and the respect that comes with it. The town of Ravenwood has always been a quiet one, in a population of around 1,000, and there are very little crime or things of the such. The worst crimes that this town had since last year was a teenage boy vandalizing the church. In this town, if something happened in the West End, everyone on the East would know by the next day. Word gets around quickly, so when a few people start talking about something a giant bird or a big shadow going around the sky at night, it reaches me very quickly. Almost everyone at least was a little scared of the shadow. If they weren't, then they were people who haunted in the woods that surrounded this town. I heard about this thing from a caring old lady that I visited almost every day. She was talking about it with her friends when she saw me and calling me over. She then asked me if I knew anything about this thing that's been flying around. I didn't know anything about it, and she started to explain it. While she was walking her little dog at night near the woods, she saw a shadow across the ground where she was walking. She then looked up into the sky to see what it was. It was, according to what she saw, a thing with wings like a bird, but was so much bigger. She told me that it was about 30 to 35 feet wide, but wasn't too long, maybe around 6 to 7 feet long. I had listened to humor the old woman. She wasn't the best in the head, meaning that she saw things before. I told her that it was probably just a migrator bird, since it was autumn and it had several different species of bird that stopped by the town to take a break. She and I had to talk about this for a few minutes. Then I got a call from an officer. When I answered, it was one of the officers that were on patrol and had asked me to come to the northern end of the town near the woods, as he said he would fill me in when I got there. I said my goodbyes to the old woman and got into my squad car. I started to head the town towards that area. When I got there, I saw the last thing I wanted to see: 3 other squad cars and a small crowd. The area in front of the cars were taped off, and there were 4 other officers within the tape-off area, which was 30 feet more than the tree line, and 2 officers outside trying to get the crowd to disperse. The officer that called me just jogged over to me and led me under the tape. I had asked her what happened, and he just pointed out that the other 4 officers were looking at. The officer that had called me started to jog over to me and led me under the tape. I had asked what happened, and he just pointed to what the 4 officers were looking at. The officer said that the woman's friend is one who called, crying and begging for them to come and help. The giant bird had killed her friend. I walked forward and knelt down to investigate. It was a dead woman, all right, around the age of 25 or so, long brown hair. She was sprawled on the ground on her back, spread eagle, and her skin was pasty white. Her eyes were rolled back into her head, sunk into the sockets. The weird thing that I saw, she was not cut, had no bruising, and there was no sign of a struggle. She looked like her life was literally just gone, like it was sucked out of her. I looked around the area and I saw something that seemed to shine in the light. I got up and went over to what it was: a camera. It was facing the woman and was still recording. I figured that the video might have evidence, so I kept it in the watch later. After the area was cleaned up, I went back to the PD and went into my office to review the video. September 27th, 2008. It was a normal average recording. It was a late night, maybe early morning before light. She was speaking with her friend, having fun and talking about a friend's party that they were coming home from. They got into an area in front of the woods, and then the woman stopped to look towards them. Her face was in the camera view. At this time, there was a faint static in the video. She asked her friend if she could hear that. Her friend just looked at her confused before replying that she did not. The woman then started walking towards the woods, camera facing in front of her. She kept walking towards the thickening brush, and then she stopped. It was quiet for a few seconds, and then there was a rustling and static appearing again. The camera quickly turned upwards and something came down and tackled her, knocking the camera off her hand, it landing on the position I found it. All that could be seen after it settled was the woman's dead body. Her friend screamed, and there was a sound of flapping and footsteps. I could deduce that the footsteps were from her friend. The flapping had to be from whatever it was that attacked the poor woman. I paused the video and thought. Then I realized something. The old woman was talking to me earlier today, told me about a bird-like thing. I put the information together, flapping in a big shadow. It had to be some kind of bird, but there was no bird that existed that had wingspan of 30 feet. I had to get more information. I continued to review the video, slowing down the video and get a better look at the blur. After reviewing this part of the video several times, I realized that there were 2 dots that stood out. Red dots. I looked closer and reviewed it for a few more times. I then realized that those dots were its eyes. It unnerved me to say the least. Bright red eyes on a pure black blur from the video recording. Seems something like out of a story. Even I was picking up to leave the PD, I couldn't get it out of my head. The picture stayed in my mind and I tried to deduce what it could be. I couldn't come up with anything. I decided to sleep on it. So deciding that, I locked up and left. September 29th, 2008. It was late at night, and I was taking a walk to relieve myself of some of the stress that this murder had brought upon me. I couldn't think of who or what could have done that. The way she looked after she was gone wasn't natural. There was no bruising even after death, but she was killed almost instantly. How could that happen without being any wounds? I thought I would never know. It wasn't a heart attack. I have seen how persons look from the death of a heart attack, and that wasn't it. I looked towards the woods, and I saw a figure. First thing that crossed my mind was how tall the thing was. It was about 6'11", maybe 7 feet tall. It looked like a man, so I spoke out to it. I asked him what he was doing out so late. I was greeted with silence. I asked a little louder, thinking he didn't hear me. Then I heard a song. It was like a person was singing, but I couldn't find where it was coming from. It sounded like it was coming from everywhere, like it was just in my head. I looked towards the figure, and I could feel myself slipping from consciousness. All I could focus was on the song. It was beautiful, sounded like 1,000 voices in perfect harmony and sync. It seemed like it was coming from the figure. I wanted to hear more. So I moved forward towards it. As I got closer, I saw something tickling out of the person's back. Then I saw there were 2 things, one on each side. I came out of my trance-like state when I realized that they were wings. My eyes widened and I took a step back. The song stopped and the thing moved. It looked like it was taking a large breath. Only a few seconds later, I heard an extremely loud screech that nearly knocked me from consciousness. The sound was deafening. I couldn't stand up straight. It wasn't fully out though. I couldn't move, but I could hear and see, even if there was a ringing in my ear and my visions were blurry. I saw the being starting to walk towards me. It looked like a young man, only around 19-20. He had jet black hair and red eyes. I saw that he was wearing black combat boots, dark pants, and black turtleneck. I saw that my assumptions were correct. He had wings. They matched his hair and what he was wearing, pure black. I thought it was a goner. Then I heard a shout and the boy turned. Bark shot off the tree near his head. I saw that happen before I heard the bang. As soon as the boy realized he was being shot at, which was quickly, his wing unfolded and the wingspan was 20 feet long. He was about 20 feet in the air and looked down on me. He smiled at me, but it wasn't a scary one, but it unnerved me. Then he took off flying just above the tree deeper into the woods. My co-head of the PD was the one that found me. After the male had gone, he came up to me and allowed myself to become unconscious. October 14th, 2008. I woke up in the hospital, which was another town over. I had bandages over my ears and head. The doctor came in there and introduced himself. He told me that I had been asleep for about 2 weeks, and that my inner ear, on my right ear, was completely destroyed, is how I am putting it. I could not hear out of my right ear, and that was the explanation. He said that the damage caused to my ear comes from an extremely high pitched and loud noise, maybe close to equivalent to standing next to a jet engine as it takes off. But no one in the town heard it except for me. I withheld the information about the winged man and let myself fall into relaxation at the hospital. I turned my head and saw him through the window. I nearly screamed. He was on the roof of the building across the street to the hospital. I could see him and his wings clearly. I was terrified of this thing I had been faced with. Then I began to realize something. He was singing the song, and I couldn't help myself from listening. And I felt that feeling. He was trying to draw me in, to eat me, my soul. That was how he killed that woman. And why? He's eating them. He dines on human souls. I have heard of beings like this. They are called Sirens. They have wings like birds and heads of humans. They sing songs that lead people, and after that, no one knows. But I do. I will not give in. I won't listen. 2 months after this, I'm hearing it. The song. The one I heard from the boy. It had been playing in my head. I have seen him several times. He is always near me, even if I can't see him. He never really takes his eyes off me. I know what he wants. He wants me to succumb. He wants me to listen to the siren song. The siren is here.